Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar on competitive competition mindset and nutrition for lacrosse. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Chad and I are both online and ready to answer questions until we get started. Well, it seems like a lot of people are online, so why don't we go ahead and get started? I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today on competition mindset and nutrition for lacrosse. My name's Dan Wernikoff, and I'm the founder of Champion Athletes Sports Nutrition. We've been working with lacrosse athletes and athletes in all other sports since about 2008, and our goal is to help everyone perform better through better nutrition. I'd like to introduce my partner for today's presentation is Chad Parks from Winning Mindset. Hey, Chad, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody, Chad Parks here. I live in Topeka, Kansas, and I work for Winning Mindset. Been part of the program for a number of years. I am a high school wrestling coach. Was a college athlete. I train multiple MMA fighters, jiu-jitsu athletes. I run strength conditioning, and then of course I work with athletes from all kinds of sports around the nation with Winning Mindset.
As we're going through the webinar today, feel free to ask questions. You can type questions in the chat box on the right of your screen, or if you don't have access to the chat box, feel free to text me questions directly at 845-641-3063. I'll be happy to read the questions, whether they're for me or for Chad. I'll be happy to read the questions so everybody knows what you're asking. The more we have an interactive discussion today, I think the more everyone's going to get out of it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chad for our first segment on winning mindset.
All right, so whenever we talk about mindset training, a big part of this, and I work, like I said earlier, I work with athletes all around the nation, and I often ask teams or individuals, what percentage of your sport do you think is mental or have you heard is mental? And almost all the time across the board, people say 90% or more. Every now and then we'll get somebody say 80%, but typically they say 90% or more. And so what you can see here on this slide is we have what we call the training paradox. And this is, we mostly agree that our sport is 90% mental, but in reality, we only train about maybe 10% mental. We train typically 90% or more physical. And, most coaches, most programs do that. We're in there, we're working on the techniques of our sport. We're practicing, we're lifting weights, we're working on our conditioning. And maybe, a little bit as coaches, we'll talk to our athletes about the mental side of the sport, but it's nothing super intentional. So if we agree that it's about 90% mental, then we must place focus on that. It can't be something that we let just slip by. If we do, then we're doing ourselves a disservice as an athlete. As coaches, we're doing our teams a disservice. And so, with Winning Mindset, we look at this training paradox and we want to make sure that we're covering that mental side as well. So I'm going to go over real quick with you. These are what we call red flags. And, no matter what sport I'm working with, some of these are the same. Some of these are specific to your sport, but I guarantee you within your sport, if you've been playing it for a while, so if you've been doing lacrosse for a while, then you probably have dealt with some of these issues. Okay, so I won't read them all, but doesn't take enough risk on the field, worried about letting teammates down, fear of missing the shot, fear of missing, not aggressive, no killer instinct. So a lot of people have these, what we call red flags. These are things that are holding you back, keeping you from reaching your full potential. And these are what I would say a lot of times we're going out competing not to get beat instead of competing to win. All right. So we want to make sure that we are in mindset training addressing these red flags. We are helping you to go in and literally we have a systematic approach to help you deal with these issues. Okay. So what is mindset training? It's sport specific, and we're talking about mental skills training. All right. We have a full curriculum. And one of the things I love about our program is this: it's not just taking bits and pieces of things. And, if you were to get on the Winning Mindset website, on any of our social medias, let's say you went to Instagram and you jumped on, I see some questions on the side there about not being able to hear. Hopefully everybody's able to hear this. So if you were to jump on Instagram and look at our lacrosse mindset or any of the other mindsets that we have, then you can see that we give out a lot of free information. We give out tips, we have videos, we have links you can go to. But when people are part of our program, we have an entire curriculum that we walk them through step by step, starting day one. And with teams, we may work with them weekly or monthly. With individuals, we often work with them weekly, get on and we do, a FaceTime or a Zoom or phone calls, and we take them through this curriculum. All right. We consider this to be strength training for your mind. And for me, strength training is a great passion of mine, something I'm highly trained in and involved in physically, but also mentally. All right. So the same way that we look at technique and strength conditioning, these are things that we can do year round. And I'll get into this more in another slide. We look at mindset training the same way. This has to be something that happens all the time. And then this is performance driven. All right. So winning is not everything. We don't often talk about winning, but we want you to have great performance. Winning is fun. Losing is not fun. We all know that. We all agree on that. But the main thing is we want you to have stellar performance. We want you to reach your full potential. So as we go through this program, that's what we're trying to do, is help you to be able to literally perform better, something that is measurable for us. Okay. A couple things that mindset training is not. It's not motivational speaking. I'm also a speaker. I speak nationally a lot of places. But whenever we're doing mindset training, this is not just to go out and inspire you and to motivate you. We literally are taking you through a curriculum. We have a lot of action steps. Okay. It's not therapy. It's not counseling. All right. So this is how mindset training is like strength training. Okay. It's something you can do year round. So as an athlete, whenever I was a college athlete, I did strength training year round. What you do in the off season may be a little bit different than what you do in season. And even right now as a coach, I still strength train year round, and I do that with my athletes. Even right now during quarantine time, I'm developing workouts at home, shooting videos, sending those to my athletes, those type of things. So when it comes to mindset training, this is something that you do as you're doing your strength and conditioning in the off season. This is something that you're doing in season. It's not just an in-season program. It's active training. Okay, so it says in here, just like you to watch your coach show technique and practice it, it's the same thing here. We have exercises, we have activities that we take you through and we walk you through, because we believe that as you get hands-on, you're able to learn these things. As we teach it to you, and then you're able to teach it back to us, and you're able to be interactive, just like we're talking about here in this webinar. If we can be interactive, you're going to be able to jump levels on this. Okay. And then different mental muscles that we train. We have a number of categories. So it's not just talking about being mentally tough, which is definitely a component, but self-knowledge. Do you know yourself? Going through like real goal setting that's going to lead to outcomes, not just writing down a wish list and then kind of forgetting it. And again, like I said, mental toughness, motivation, confidence, aggressiveness. These are all areas, and these are mental muscles, different areas of your brain that we have a curriculum for, and we walk by. In each of these areas, we may have 4, 5, 6 or more sections that we're going to take you through to address each of these areas. All right. We're also wanting to build in leadership skills, team skills. If you do have an injury, I have a couple of athletes I'm working with right now that have dealt with injuries during their season. We've gotten past those, thankfully, but focusing on the things you can't control versus the things that you can't control and doing that stuff. So, and then sleep, the mental side of sleep, recovery. So we're covering a lot of areas whenever we're going through this. You can see a few of the lacrosse teams that we're working with. Okay. Some Division III teams here, some of the top clubs. All right. Mount Sinai High School girls team, top 5 in the nation, Triple Threat Academy. So if you're an individual, if you're a club, if you're a college, high school program, whatever it is, It's something that we can do with you. We can work for you. All right, so I'm going to take you through. This is what we'd consider one of our kind of premier mindset pillars right here, and we call this, predator versus prey mindset. And as you can see on the slide, eyes in front like to hunt, eyes on the side like to hide. All right, predators have their eyes in the front. So whenever a lion or a tiger wakes up in the morning, it's not thinking about being attacked or being eaten. It has an objective, and it's going to go out and it's going to do what it needs to do to meet that objective. All right, it's got to feed its family, it's got to feed itself, it's got to feed its family. As athletes, we're the same way. We have an objective, and we can't have our eyes all around worried about everything else. We have to know, here's my focus, here's what I'm going after, and I have an exact locked in way to be able to do this. Okay, so prey, on the other hand, their eyes are on the side because they're worried about everything else all the time. So for us, one of the ways that we like to think about this predator versus prey, I don't want to get real deep into this, but this, like I said, is a pillar for us. One of the ways we like to think about this is, as a predator, we have that objective we're going after. Prey is your biggest foe. All right. And so foe is for this fan mentality. People often have fan mentality as an athlete. So for me, I'm from the state of Oklahoma originally. I'm a huge OU football fan. I love them. So on Sundays, I'll get on and I'll look at what their new ranking is, and I'll see who their opponent's going to be. If I think they can beat that opponent based off who that's because I'm a fan. The OU players, their job is to go to practice on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and to go in and to do what their coaches say and to try to meet their objective, right? They can't worry about these outside things. So as athletes, we often have this fan mentality, and that's prey mindset, where we're worried about rankings. We're worried about records of the other team. We're worried about the names of the players on the other team because maybe they're superstars. Maybe it's a school we're playing against or a club that we're playing against who is undefeated. Maybe they've won a number of titles. All right, that's fan mentality, because those are all out of our control. What is under our control is our attitude, our aggressiveness, how we prepare every single day, the predator mindset things. All right, so the F in foe, F-O-E, that's your fan mentality. The O is for others. A lot of times as athletes, and I was this way as someone who competed in the sport of wrestling from the age of 4 all the way through college, and then jiu-jitsu after that. A lot of times we're worried about others, other people's opinions. And sometimes these are people that really matter to us, right? Our mom, our dad, our coaches, people we care about, we've invested in, they've invested in us. But we become so worried about their opinions that we don't make this our own journey. So now we're trying to compete or trying to train for them because we don't want to let them down. As an athlete, you have to make it your own journey. My dad, who's a Hall of Fame wrestling coach, used to say this: you're the one who gets to bring home the medal and keep the medal after the tournament. You're the one who has the title. It's not me. My job is to help you get there. So we can't be worried about what other people think about us, other people's opinions. Sometimes maybe there's haters out there. Sometimes there's people that do love you, but like I said, you're worried about letting them down. So as an athlete, we want to make sure that we're going in and, again, focusing on the controllables, which is our effort, our attitude, our aggressiveness, how we're training, how we're preparing, and then going and leaving our best out there. Because those people that do care about us, at the end of the day, they're going to love us no matter what. They're going to love us. They're going to care about us no matter what. So we can't be worried about what other people think. And even if we love and care about them, we have to make this our own journey. We got to go after this ourselves as athletes, as a team, as individuals. Those are things that we got to focus on. And then the E, real quick, is extras. These are things that aren't inherently bad, but if they get in the way of your objective, they become prey mindset. So an example of this is maybe video games. Video games is not a bad thing in and of itself. But if you're staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning playing video games and you've become addicted to that, or something like social media, now it's interrupting your sleep patterns, it's interrupting your training. Now that has become prey mindset. So we need to make sure that anything that is an extra is kept in its proper place. Having a girlfriend, boyfriend, not a bad thing, okay? But if it gets in the way of our objective, or if it's a relationship that is harmful, even the friends that we're hanging around, if they are relationships that are harmful, those things get in our way as athletes to be able to go after the objective that we're looking for. So predator versus prey mindset. For us, this is a big one. We want you to think like a predator. Want you to, if you look in the mirror as humans, our eyes are in the front. We want you having an objective, going after that. And if you want to be a great lacrosse player, if you want to have a great team, then we're going to help you do that through mindset training. So what you're doing with your coaches and practice, your technique, your eating, ultimately, when I boil all this down, it's kind of lifestyle versus lifestyle. Okay. And then, before I get ready to turn this over to Dan real quick, these are some common thought patterns. We can connect these with predator versus prey, but, sometimes the way we think has been so ingrained in us, we have to go back and kind of revamp that. All right. So in your best competitions, if you're looking at the slide, I want you to think about this. Whenever I'm competing at my best, I'm thinking about my technique. I'm not thinking about what my opponents might or might not do, because again, I can't control that, but I can control how I've trained. I can't control how I go out there and compete. And if I can just simplify it, if I can walk out there and think I need to do A, B, and C, and I can simplify those things, I'm going to be better at what I'm doing. Okay. If I can treat all opponents the same, I'm not overestimating. I'm not giving too much respect, and we respect them because they train hard like we do, but we're not giving them too much respect as in like, oh man, this is a really good team. This team won a national championship or a state championship last year. Therefore, they've already won on paper, because we don't compete on paper, right? So we got to go out there. We got to just treat everybody the same. Have consistent intensity all the time. There are no special games. A game's a game. And, the way I look at that is if we're competing against one another in practice, or if we're competing against one another out there in competition, even if it was the national championship, and unfortunate enough, I've got to compete on some national stages. It doesn't matter. Whenever you walk out there, the field's the field. Opponents are opponents, and you go out and you do what you prepared to do. So we have consistent intensity, and then we're not making anything special, too big or too small. We're going out and we're just competing the same every single time. Okay. I'm going to scroll on down just a little bit. It's not just a lacrosse game. I have nothing to lose, again, versus the significance of this game. So we can't make any certain game or any certain competition too big in our mind. And as the athletes, we do that a lot. We get nervous, and that's fine being nervous. We have to learn how to control that and use that. But if we make it too big, that can freeze us up. And then we'll be in a mode where we've either given up mentally, or we're not competing to win. We're competing not to get beat, which is a really bad place to come at this from. Okay. Right underneath that ties in, and then I'm going to get returned over. I don't care what team I'm facing. Okay. I'm well prepared for my opponents versus where are they ranked. Again, we don't want to think about this fan mentality, what their rank, what their record is, what their name is or school they represent. It's a team. It's a person that you're, going against, or you're facing. We're all human. So if you've prepared well, you got to be confident whenever you walk out there and you get ready to get after it. Okay. So we want to have these common thought patterns that are real positive ones that lead us in a good direction. And whenever we look at our best competitions, whenever we've competed at our best, we want to make sure that we know what those are and that we're locking those things in all the time. Okay. All right, my man, Dan, I'm going to turn this over to you and for nutrition.
Anybody have any questions for Chad before we move on to the nutrition segment? You can type questions at any time for both of us, but we can pause here for a minute and see if anybody has any questions for Chad.
I see there's a Zach Parks on here. Maybe we're cousins, Zach.
I was thinking that was maybe your brother. Is that your cousin?
I don't believe I know Zach, but maybe we are related. So good last name.
That's pretty cool. Yep, good last name. All right, everybody, let's move on to lacrosse nutrition. So one of the things that I like to think about in any competitive sport is that you have to think about your career in that sport as a marathon and not a sprint. And that's where I have the lacrosse challenge. And as a lacrosse player, you have to balance many different things. You have to balance your strength, your speed, keep your energy up high, your endurance. You have to be able to recover fast, both after games and practices. You have to maintain mental sharpness both on the field and in the classroom to keep your grades up high. And you have to be able to practice and compete at a high level if you want to achieve all your goals. So those are the challenges that every lacrosse player faces. And good nutrition and good mindset can help you with those aspects of what you're trying to accomplish. The athlete food pyramid is kind of a way of categorizing all the different foods that your body needs in order to perform at your best. So all nutritionists spend a lot of time talking about macros, proteins, carbs, fats, and we'll go over those a little bit and how to think about how those should play into your diet. The timing of your nutrition is very important. When you eat proteins, when you eat carbs, when you hydrate. When you get that timing down, you're able to push your performance to the next level. So timing is just about knowing when to eat what when in order to get the most bang for your buck. There's thousands of supplements on the market today, and navigating the supplement market can be very complicated. Supplements always try to promise you everything that's out there. And as we know, most student athletes don't really need many supplements at all. But when used properly and under the right supervision, you can definitely get gains from using supplements. Now, a new category that's been in existence probably for about 10 years or so is sport food. And sport food are things like protein bars, protein shakes, things like that are available for people to use. And they're a way of getting nutrition in a compact way and often a very shelf-stable way. So you can take it with you to the practice field or on trips and know that the food's going to be healthy and safe when you go to eat it. Excuse me. By the way, I have a little bit of a cough from Northeast allergies. I'm not sick with the coronavirus, just so everybody knows, but I apologize if I cough a few times during my presentation today. And the last category we like to talk about are micros. And micros are the micronutrients that are part of our diet. Vitamins, minerals, all the subcategories of things that you need for your body to work healthily. So let's talk about macros for a minute, and let's talk about proteins. So most of us learned in health class at some point that proteins are essential for muscle building and repair. How you manipulate proteins in your diet gets different effects. Everybody's heard of like a keto type diet, which is a super high protein diet. Super high protein diets that are in excess of 60 to 70% protein are great for building muscle, but they're terrible for energy. And I wouldn't recommend those for a lacrosse player because they'll help you gain muscle, but you're going to have terrible energy when you're out on the practice field. The other problem with super high protein diets is they've been shown to suppress your hormones. And a lot of my clients are between 8 and 25. About 90% of my clients fall in that age group. So making sure that you continue to grow and develop properly is part of my job. So I wouldn't want you to have too much protein in your diet. It can suppress your hormones. It can be bad for your kidneys and liver. So remember, the proteins come from both animal and plant sources. There's been a lot more information recently about people using plant-based diets. And there's some great plant-based diets, but it is a challenge for an athlete to make sure you're getting enough protein from plant-based sources. Some signs that you're not getting enough protein in your diet can be anemia. That means you're low iron in your body, feeling excess fatigue, being subject to stress fractures and having multiple broken bones over a short period of time. And insufficient protein can impair your growth and maturity. Carbohydrates are our main source of energy, especially for the competition or the competing athlete. And one general rule about carbohydrates should be that the less processed they are, the longer the sustained energy. So less processed things are things that are more raw. Generally, we say pick things that are brown, not things that are white. So you see the dark bread in the picture, you see the potatoes, bananas as a natural food source, beans, nuts, seeds, and pasta. The darker they are, the longer they're going to last in your body. Sugar molecules are broken down and then stored in your liver for your muscles to use as fuel. After your heart and lungs are beating really, really fast, your body needs to use stored energy. First, that stored energy comes from your kidney and your liver, and then after that, it comes from inside your muscles themselves. When you don't have enough carbohydrates in your diet, your body's forced to use stored fat and muscle for energy. That stored fat and muscle is going to make you weaker, and it's going to reduce your muscle gains over a period of time. So balancing that protein, carbohydrates in your diet will help you be more successful in lacrosse. And then there are fats. A lot of people think that I don't need fat in my diet or I should eliminate fats when I'm trying to lose weight. But fats actually provide some really important things in our diet. They help us with sustained energy. And if you're playing a 60-minute lacrosse game, you need that sustained energy. Fats also help us with proper digestion. When we don't have enough fat in our diet, a lot of athletes will complain about constipation, being very gassy, bloated, have very uncomfortable stomachs. And that can be from having not enough fat in your diet. Testosterone is present both in men and women as we're growing and maturing, and it's an essential hormone. Testosterone is a fat-based molecule. So if you don't have enough fat in your diet, your body's going to have more difficulty producing the amount of testosterone you need. In generally, a fat range should be between 10 and 40% of your diet, and it can be sourced from both animals, fruits like avocado, and beans, nuts, and seeds. And let's not forget about hydration. If you don't do anything different after our presentation today, drink more water. Nobody drinks enough water. In all my offices, we have a big poster up that says drink more water, because water is essential for building muscle, staying energized, helps you with concentration. The most common reason for headaches in school-age children between 8 and 20 is being dehydrated. That's the most common reason for headaches. So the more water you drink, the easier it's going to be for you to concentrate. As teenagers, a lot of people are concerned about their appearance and acne and things like that. And being well hydrated helps reduce acne and improves the appearance of both your skin, nails, and hair. It keeps your kidney function working well, which is important. We want everything to be functioning as best as possible. And nobody likes to talk about bowel movements or going to the bathroom, but there's nothing worse than trying to play a lacrosse game and either being constipated and having stomach cramps or having diarrhea and having to run off the field. So drinking properly is going to help you with good bowel movements. Now, as part of the lacrosse challenge, which I began speaking about, is how do we balance all these things? So there are three key parts to any athlete. And one is that you want to be at your peak for competition. You want your body to have the right amount of body fat, the right amount of muscle mass to be in an optimal state for competition. But if you're between the ages of 8 and 25, you need to continue to grow and mature. That's an important thing to have happen also. And we accomplish these things through nutrition periodization. And nutrition periodization is the idea that I'm going to kind of break down my whole year into different segments. In this example, I use spring, summer, and fall. And if you break down your season this way or your competitive year, you can decide what I'm going to be doing at each segment. Spring is a prime time for lacrosse, so you probably want to be at your peak performance during the spring and the summer. But then as fall comes around, most people kind of switch, or we switch our lacrosse athletes into a muscle gaining mode. That's a time for good muscle recovery, for getting stronger, focusing on getting bigger. So periodization is timing nutrition, timing your body composition around your competition schedule. Now, if you want to change your body composition and move it into an ideal direction for lacrosse, how do you start? And the first thing you need to do is do a body composition analysis. Now, you can see nutritionists like myself who will do it for you. There are also some apps available both on phones and on the computer where you can plug in different things. And if you know your height and weight and have a tape measure, you're able to do a simple body composition analysis. In our offices, we use ultrasound and other technology to do a much more accurate body composition, but you can get an idea of where you are with some of these apps on the phone. So a body composition analysis is going to tell you your weight, your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, your state of hydration, and your BMR. Your BMR is your basal metabolic rate, which means if you laid in bed for 24 hours, did absolutely nothing, how many calories your body needs to maintain your current weight. Now, that number is really important because if you want to gain weight or you want to lose weight, if you want to lose some body fat, or maybe you're a little too lean and you want to get bigger, you need to know how many calories your body needs. So the first number you need to know is that BMR. If I lay in bed for 24 hours and do nothing, how many calories do I need to eat just to maintain my weight? Then you need to add to that a number for daily living, like going to school, hanging out with your friends, regular life. And then you need to add numbers for all the physical activity you're doing. And there are charts for these things available on the internet, or again, you could see a professional like myself. So we calculate your total metabolic rate, how many calories your body needs to maintain your weight right where it is. And then if you want to gain weight, we will add to that. And if we want to lose weight, we'll subtract from that. So then you need to set up some goals. What should my body fat percentage be? Depending on what area of lacrosse you play in, whether you're in attack or defense, depends on kind of an ideal body fat percentage. What should your muscle mass be? Now, we all think that we want to get bigger and stronger, which is true, but the more muscle you're carrying, it can slow you down a little bit. So there's lean muscle and bulky muscle. So the balance of muscle in your body is going to affect your performance. And then also energy and endurance. What can I do to increase my energy on the field and also maintain my endurance throughout the entire game? We don't want anybody to be petering out halfway through the game or 3/4 of the game. We want you to be performing at your highest level throughout the entire game. So if you want to change your diet, start off with your calories and figure out that total calorie load that your body needs. Then look at the macros. How much protein should I have in my diet? If I'm in a muscle gaining phase, I want my diet to be a little bit higher in protein. But if I'm competitively playing right now, I'd like my protein to be a little lower and my carbohydrates to be a little higher, so I have a little more energy on the field. And then I need to balance my fats. Water and hydration should be a priority of everything you're doing in your plan. And then think about timing your nutrients. So if I have lacrosse practice, I want to make sure I have some good carbohydrates about an hour before, those long-lasting brown carbohydrates to give me good energy throughout that practice. If I'm trying to gain muscle, I want to make sure I have some protein at night before I go to bed, so my muscle recovery and I can gain muscle while I'm sleeping during the night. Regardless of what your goals are, you need a plan. This is an example of the plans that we build for our clients at Champion Athletes. And whether you build a plan for yourself or you have someone do it for you, these are the goals of a good nutrition plan. You need to meet your performance objectives. So are you trying to gain muscle right now? Are you trying to lean down a little bit? Or am I in competition season, so I need to be performing at my best? A nutrition plan gives you predictability, so you know where your weight's going to be. You know, if you follow your plan, you're not going to gain 5 pounds from one day to the next. So your body's going to be much more predictable. It's going to make sure you're getting in the right number of macronutrients like the proteins, carbs, and fats, and the right amount of micronutrients like the vitamins and fiber and things like that. It's going to ensure you're getting enough hydration so your muscles are always fueled with water. And by following a plan, it's going to reduce stress and anxiety in your life. A lot of people get a lot of stress about how much I should eat, when I should eat, before competition, before practices. If you have a plan, it takes all that stress and anxiety out of what you're doing. Both Winning Mindset and myself often talk about controlling the things you can control. And a plan lets you control those things. It lets you know what food you need, lets you do shopping once a week. You don't waste time when it comes to meal prep. You're ready to go. Now, Champion Athletes, we help our clients through these 3 things. We begin with the detailed body composition analysis and assessment to see where our client is with their muscle mass, their body fat, if they're under 20 years old, where they are with growth and puberty, and all the things that affect their body. Based on that initial assessment, we're going to build a plan for them, just like the one you saw. And then we coach all of our clients. So we interact with our clients sometimes on a daily basis to make sure they're hitting their goals and they're reaching the goals we set up of their plan. All right. What questions can we answer either for Winning Mindset or for Champion Athletes? Feel free to type any questions in the chat box or text us any questions. Chad and I are both here to help you in any way we can today.
Hey, Dan, as we're waiting, without getting too deep into it, so looking at proteins and carbs and fats, what are your favorite kind of proteins for athletes to utilize?
So I usually try to encourage my athletes to be on the leaner side of protein. So more chicken and fish, if they're doing a, animal-based diet, or if they're doing a plant-based diet, we try to put as many nuts and seeds and beans into their plan. We do encourage our clients to have some red meat if they eat it, usually about 2 meals a week, because that does help keep their iron levels higher and prevents anemia. All right, we have one question from Shaz, and she says, is this presentation recorded to be reviewed again? Yes, it is. There'll be links both on the Winning Mindset website and on the Champion Athletes website so you can access the recording from today. Harry has a question. What would be a good workout to do? Harry, I think you need to be a little more specific for us on what your goals are. Both Chad and I can help you with that, but we need a little more detail.
All right, let's see. Harry put to increase my endurance. That's what he's looking to do.
Chad, you want to talk on it first?
Yeah, again, I mean, it's kind of, Harry, it's a little bit hard to know without sitting down and going deeply into your goals. But, when it comes to endurance, a lot of times people have in their minds, like just strictly cardio. They're thinking like, oh, I got to go out and run a bunch of things like that, which isn't necessarily true. So for me personally, whenever it comes to endurance, I like if we can kind of keep it a little bit sport specific, but just overall to give you like sort of a general answer, I'm a huge fan of functional fitness training. So I'm a huge fan of blending your strength training with your cardio training. Okay. So whatever strength program you're doing, and right now, wherever you're at, the gyms might be closed. So you're doing these things at home. So some easy examples might be, you were doing push-ups and body weight squats and maybe grabbing a chair and doing some dips off of it, and some split squats or jumps, adding some plyometric type work in there. So I like higher repetitions, very little rest, and rest as needed so you keep good form. But maybe pick 3 exercises, and I might go like 7 to 10 reps. Let's say 10 reps on the higher end, but maybe I go 10 repetitions of a push-up, 10 squat, and then 10 like split squats or split jumps, and then take a small little rest, come back, go through that 4 or 5 times, and then pick 3 or 4 exercises. Again, go through that a few times. So if you can make sure that you're getting your strength work in with your cardio work at the same time, getting a elevated heart rate over time, that's going to increase your endurance. Okay, so I don't know about where you live, but where I live, like there's literally a hill right in front of my house. So a lot of times I may be doing strength workouts in my driveway, and then I'll blend some hill work in. So jogging the hill, sprinting the hill, skipping the hill. And, so that way I'm getting my cardio and my strength at the same time. Again, very little rest, and I'm building up endurance that way. If you just, if you're wanting to just run a whole bunch, and look at a good running program to where you're doing shorter mileages on some days, longer on other days. But I think a lot of times we neglect strength work, and we need to make sure that we're having that in there as well. And then of course recovery is important, but so we're doing our massage and doing our whether it's like a massage ball or whatever it is, and then getting ample sleep and nutrition, those type of things for recovery. So Dan, anything to add on to that?
I was going to say most of what you said. The other thing that I tell a lot of my clients they can do is they can always do an intermittent running program where they're jogging and then they're sprinting and then they're jogging. If you have access to a track, you can kind of jog the straights and sprint the curves or reverse it that way. Yeah. I have clients who will go and spray paint a little dot on their curb, and they'll know when to switch from jogging to sprinting. So they'll help gain endurance that way. We look at lacrosse as an intermittent sport where you're going from periods of slow activity to then periods of sprinting. Yeah. So the more you can condition your cardiovascular system to respond to that, the better endurance you're going to have. So I think Chad and I are basically both saying the same thing. What you really want to do is kind of combine slow activity with fast activity as much as possible. So your body gets used to making that fast switch from going slow to sprinting, going back and forth again. That's going to give you that really good endurance for lacrosse. Yeah. Susan has a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Chad, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would add in real quick, making sure that you're adding some lateral movements. A lot of times if we're just running distance or sprints, whatever, we're straight ahead. But, a sport like lacrosse, we're on the field and you're going to have to stop quickly, make cuts, and change the directions. So add in some movements that blend that as well.
Excellent point. All right. We have another question from Susan, and she said, what app do you recommend recommended for tracking nutrition? So when clients ask me to track nutrition, I recommend MyFitnessPal because it's basically free. It's really easy to use. I don't find that tracking nutrition is very successful because you can track your nutrition for a little while to kind of see what you're consuming, but I don't find that to be a very successful strategy for planning your nutrition because you're kind of doing it based on reactionary. If you want to get results from your nutrition, you need a plan in advance. So you want to kind of set up the plan and then you want to try to meet it as closely as possible rather than kind of tracking backwards and saying, well, I ate 2,000 calories today, but I really should have eaten like 1,800. So by having a plan, you're going to be much more successful than trying to track your nutrition. Next question. Shaz says, do you have to eat breakfast in the morning if you're not hungry? You don't necessarily have to eat breakfast if you're not hungry, but there has been a lot of research to show that if you're a younger person, and by younger, I'm going to say under 25 years old, kind of a competitive athlete, when you skip breakfast in the morning, it tends to slow your metabolism down. And we want to keep your metabolism functioning at a high rate as possible. Now, breakfast doesn't have to be like bacon, egg, and pancakes. Breakfast could be a protein shake. Breakfast could be a protein bar and a chocolate milk as you're jumping out of the car on your way to school. So it doesn't have to be a huge meal, but we find that our clients do better when they have some calories in the morning. The other problem with skipping breakfast is that by the time your next meal comes, most people are very hungry. And when you're very hungry, you make poor food choices. You're kind of ravenous, so you want to eat everything that's in front of you. So you don't make as good food choices. So by having a little breakfast in the morning, you kind of prevent yourself at your next meal from gorging and making poor food choices. Okay. Shane asked a question. How would you recommend breaking up a diet during the day? For example, more carbs in the morning, protein in the afternoon. So Shane, all of our clients follow a 6-meal per day format. So we do 3 meals and 3 snacks a day. And the balance of nutrients depends on what their goals are. So for instance, the wrestlers that we work with, we upload their nutrition in the first part of the day. So they're burning as many calories throughout the day as possible because they have to maintain their weight in a very strict area. So we have more nutrition in the morning and less nutrition as the day goes on. If you're trying to gain muscle, we kind of want to reverse that. We want to make sure you're getting good nutrition throughout the day, but long-lasting protein at night is going to help you gain muscle. So the timing of all those nutrients depends on what your goals are. Any other questions that either Chad or I can answer for you?
As we're kind of waiting for a second, Dan, I was just going to say, the beauty of what we're doing here with nutrition and with mindset is if you want to be an above average athlete, I'm not saying you have to be the most elite, but maybe you have dreams of being, an elite athlete. If we want to reach our full potential, it's not just doing so. Like as a coach, I often tell my athletes, I only get to be with you 2, maybe 3 hours a day. That's it. All right. So let's say 2 hours a day. And what are you doing with the other 22 hours a day? That's on you, right? So ultimately, if you want to be a really good athlete or if you want to excel, it's lifestyle versus lifestyle. It's all these things that you're doing outside of practice time because practice time is controlled by your coach. So the way you're eating here, your nutrition, the way you're training your mind, all the extra things you can be doing, that's lifestyle versus lifestyle. So then whenever you come against somebody, another team or an opponent that you're directly guarding or working against, maybe you're both pretty good, but if one person's lifestyle is better than the other one's, as far as eating clean all the time, getting proper rest and nutrition and training your mind and being ready to roll when you walk out there, you're going to have a higher chance of success. Nobody can guarantee wins, but you put yourself in a really good position to win and to perform well and to succeed whenever your lifestyle is as good as it can be. So, one of the things that we want here is for you to know what your goals are, and then let's really plan our lifestyle around that. Not easy, but being a great athlete's not easy. It's absolutely worth it though. And then it becomes just a part of who you are. And so ultimately that's what we want. We want all of this to become just a part of who you are, and we help guide you and coach you along the way in that process.
All right, everyone. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'd like to thank everyone for participating. You are going to receive a email questionnaire at the end of the webinar, and we would appreciate any feedback you can give us. The more information we know, the better we can answer your questions, the better webinars we can do in the future. If you have specific questions for us, you can reach us at our contact information here. You can reach me at Champion Athletes at our phone number or through email or through our Instagram or Facebook. And you can reach Winning Mindset through their contact information below. I'd like to thank everyone for participating in our webinar today. Chad, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to say thank you, Dan, for putting this on and for having me and Winning Mindset on as a guest. We appreciate it. And for all those who jumped on here, we appreciate you being on, and make sure that you reach out and you contact us for further information so we can help you on this journey.
Now, next week, we're hosting another webinar, same time on Thursday, on swimming, mindset, and nutrition. So if you benefited from our presentation today and you have some friends that are swimmers, please encourage them to join us next week for our mindset presentation. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and healthy. Have a great day.